We see record-breaking turnout in Georgia on day one here. Why is that the case?
Well, I think because everybody is very excited for the change that we're going to unleash with this election. We're very excited to see those types of numbers. This is an election that matters. It's truly an inflection point, not just for our country, but for the entire world, and not just for the next 4 years, but for decades to come. We are either going to be a country that's going to be strong, or we're going to be a country that's weak. And I think that the people of Georgia, the people all across the country, want America to be strong, and that's why they're going to turn out and vote for Donald Trump.
I hear you there, sir, but I'm also looking at turnout in Georgia specifically. 2016, 3.9 million people there in Georgia voted for Donald Trump. He won by 5 points. In 2020, more than 1 million people voted, 4.9 million in that state, and he lost by 0.2. So if he's already been a victim of higher turnout in Georgia in 2020, do you fear that could be the same in 2024?
We feel very good. You know, our polling has consistently shown Donald Trump with a very small but durable lead. We are seeing registration gains all across the state. The turnout that we're seeing right now in the rural parts of the state today, very, very positive. So we're very upbeat about what we're seeing in Georgia.
You say small but durable. What's small?
You know, maybe it's 1 point, maybe it's 2 points, maybe it's 3 points. But, you know, we're inside the margin generally, but we're showing a very durable lead. We feel very confident about our ground game in the state and the enthusiasm we're seeing on the ground.
Let's talk about your home state, which, of course, is North Carolina. As we know, parts of that state, especially out west, devastated by Hurricane Helene. Some of those areas are just trying to figure out life, yet alone voting, right, at this point in time. Where do you think North Carolina is right now, and what concerns, if any, do you have when it comes to the election there?
Well, look, what I will say is this. First, we care about bodies, we care about lives, we care about families a lot more than we do anything else. And what I am seeing, you know, I was on the ground there Friday with Samaritan's Purse, with recovery operations, and it was really, truly an uplifting experience for me. I have seen thousands upon thousands of volunteers all across the country that are coming in to help North Carolina families whose lives have been torn apart by this storm. In terms of voting, what we're seeing is that the Board of Elections, the legislature have come together. They have put out a series of changes that are going to allow these counties to get early voting and Election Day precincts up and running. So we are going to have voting in Western North Carolina, and it's really going to be a matter of getting to those families, getting to those voters, and letting them know how to vote, where to vote, and when to vote.
If that's not the case, are lawsuits coming?
I think they would be, but what we're seeing right now is that the legislature has acted. They passed a reform package that has been pretty much adopted by the Board of Elections, and we're going to have people with an opportunity to go cast their vote.
Two more for you here. Donald Trump recently, Coachella Valley, California, deep blue. He's going to Madison Square Garden, New York, deep blue. You remember 2016, part of the narrative afterwards was one of the reasons why Hillary Clinton lost was because she didn't spend enough time in Wisconsin. She didn't spend enough time in Michigan. Why is he going to California and New York in the home stretch of the election? And is that the best use of his time?
You know, I think what we have seen is Donald Trump has been relentless in terms of visiting every one of the 7 battleground states. He has been to Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin,
but I just mentioned
Michigan.
New York and California.
You absolutely did, and there are great earned media opportunities out of those in California. We're also competing and talking into the Nevada market there as well as congressional seats that are going to be in California. In New York, we are very excited about having a major event in New York, and that's going to be a huge earned media implication. Plus, we've got congressional seats in New York that we really care about as well.
Let me leave you with this. Michael Whatley, chairman of the RNC. We are hearing that Donald Trump will be doing the Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, the most listened to podcast in this country. Kamala Harris, according to Reuters, her team is talking about having her go on that podcast. Obviously, there's the reach and the earned media that you just discussed. Take me, though, behind the thinking of why Donald Trump wants to sit down with Joe Rogan at this point in time.
What Donald Trump wants to do is communicate directly with the American people via any platform that he can. He will go anywhere to talk to the American voters, which is why he's in New York. He's in Philadelphia. He's been in Detroit. He was in California. He's done events in Chicago like he did today with the Economic Club. And he has gone on platforms like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and many, many others. He will take any opportunity to talk directly with the American people about his vision for restoring our southern border, rebuilding our economy, and ensuring that we are strong enough to protect our interests and our allies around the world.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.